Hello everyone, and welcome to Viniq Biospheres. Today we'll be seeing what happens when the Viniqian species venture onto land. As is usual with these videos, we will be starting with Viniq I, then proceeding to Viniq H, and finally Viniq JB. Alright, let's get started. I will begin the Viniq I segment with the Florixis and all of its descendants. But first, we need a bit of context. This is how a Florixis egg looks like. As you can see, the egg consists of a shell with an embryo and the spores surrounding it. The spores will cling onto the embryo and develop with it so that it is born with the xenophagitas already attached to it. But occasionally it happens that the plant overpowers the animal, causing it to die, and wherever the corpse falls, the plant will feed off of it and grow in that place as purely a plant, separate from its now completely dead companion. This eventually develops into a very simplified version of the animal side, carrying the plant until a certain point where the plant commands it to commit suicide, allowing the plant to feast on the body until it develops its own photosynthesis. I have chosen to name this strange carnivorous plant the Cadaverophagos, and this creature will be the key for the species of Viniq I to enter land. The animal side, which I will now refer to as the host, will be able to develop a stronger structure similar to bone, so that it does not collapse upon itself when entering land. And even if it did collapse upon itself, if it doesn't have such a strong structure, it wouldn't really matter in the long run, as it only needs to survive long enough to transport the plant far enough so that the plant can thrive. This way, the plant can live in the intertidal zone, with the creatures that feed on it quickly following suit, metaphorically running after their food source. Speaking of the creatures that would follow them to land, I think it's about time to go to our old friends the Triamatridae family to see what they've been up to. Some of the highly successful Triatopithis have drifted from their omnivorous lifestyle into a more herbivorous shape. Because of this, they quickly acquire a taste for the Cadaverophagos, and some will follow them, as explained previously. There are many ways that this modification could happen, but one of the most likely would probably be that the fins that currently poke outwards move to go below the animal, and they become more robust to hold it. Their position of being the first to ever walk on the planet will give them their name, Protoambulus. This pair of creatures will lead the chain of events that will create all terrestrial life in Viniq I. Now we can move on to Viniq JB. In Viniq JB, to take advantage of a more forested environment, the Carcinospida will take on a sturdier form. Its front limbs may grow closer to its mouth until they eventually develop into a beak of sorts. This may aid it in eating plant matter. This variant can't really be grouped with the other members of the Carcinospida species, so I suppose we should give it its own unique species name. SusjxGUjVD considers this a semi-aquatic beaked animal who feasts on plants and has developed a strong, sturdy skeleton and bilateral symmetry that deserves the name water beetle, Aquascathari. Now, let's catch up on the plant matter that will take these little guys out of the ocean. The Xanthocaulidae family. The Xanthocaulidae have evolved once again. They have kept their step system, but evolved to be more hardy and shorter. In this way, they can survive out in the sun for a relatively limited amount of time. But that doesn't really matter considering that they're in the intertidal zone, which means that the tides will always return for them. For now, the Aquascathari and SusjxGUjVD have been more than enough to cover our bases with Viniq JB, so I suppose it's time to move on to Viniq H. Perhaps we should begin with the descendants of the Rotundozoa. The Rotundozoan descendants are very inefficient in their way of moving. This means that they will eventually have to develop a better way, or they might face extinction. One of these ways could perhaps involve bilateral symmetry, and from there we can build up some way of moving. Let's take the Gastrozoa for example. Their protostomachs have made them very widespread among the seas. Now, their digestive system of plants is far more internalized, but some of it remains on the outside, right on the ring of what would be its mouth. This means that eventually, perhaps, some of these may adapt to become a way of moving similar to that of a snail, glands that produce a sort of snail slime equivalent and could be used for this way of movement. In this way, the Gastrozoans grow to be very efficient as a species. While this happens, the creatures that they feed upon, which are very similar to moths, will eventually go towards the intertidal zone, leading some of these new Gastrozoans to emerge there. Though, with a body plan so clearly more powerful than the others, it is likely that some sort of carnivory would emerge. In this case, perhaps the creature with an advantage may become carnivorous, splitting the species in two based on a relatively minor detail on which of these is marginally faster. Perhaps a more dynamic body plan may be the one to become a predator. While the evolution of the herbivorous variant may follow a relatively normal path, the lack of another way for predatory behavior to emerge in such slug-like creatures will give the carnivorous variant a very interesting development. Due to their slug-like physique, one of the only ways that they could possibly develop a predatory behavior would be by ensuring that their prey is immobilized, because this would be, frankly, the only way that a creature like that could get its prey and consume it safely. One of the ways this could happen could be by making the digestive glands produce a particularly sticky liquid. This may be either replacing the digestive glands altogether, or perhaps separating from them, creating a completely separate gland that serves solely this purpose. In this way, the sticky substance would work similar to a spiderweb, immobilizing the victim so that the predator can go on and consume it. Speaking of a spiderweb, this process, for it to be efficient, would have to be restricted to a certain area where the creature lives. In this way, it would become even more similar to a spiderweb. This may also cause that these new formed glands inflate, becoming more prominent and being able to produce more liquid. In this way, the animal will change its appearance permanently.